Okay, so now I think we have everyone. Hi, Madison.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Jerry. I am a film reviewer for Ghouls Magazine. So that's what we are doing this interview for today. I really appreciate everybody popping on.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking all of us.
Yeah. Hey. I love it. I mean, this is it, right? You guys,
Yeah.
You're the ones that did it all. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing. I'm glad to have all of you on here at once. I just want to say, first of all, that I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was really interesting.
Thank you.
And I didn't know when I first got the screener that I guess the details going into it, that it is improvised, shot 12 days on 2 iPhones. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about that. And if I could just get you guys to introduce yourselves and kind of just a quick who I am and what I did on this film.
Sure.
And let's start with Madison.
Hello, I'm Madison West, and I played Virginia.
Great. Powell.
Hey, I'm Powell. I'm one of the co-directors and also the cinematographer.
Awesome. Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren, and I'm the producer on the film.
Awesome. Patrick.
I'm Patrick. I'm the other co-director.
Joey.
Hey, I'm Joey Millin, and I'm the other actor. I played Leo, and I'm really enjoying that. Apparently, Maddie and I got the sibling memo to wear black with colors.
You guys are so in tune.
This was not planned. It's
That's
just
so cute.
sibling telepathy.
Yeah, you all look great. You're all in different areas? Are you all on the West Coast?
Oh yeah,
We're all
different
Los
areas on the
Angeles.
West Coast. Yeah,
Oh,
Like
all
a
in
10-mile
Los
circle, I think.
yeah.
Nice.
Well, actually, this is you can't tell. We're actually all in the same house.
Yeah.
You just had to sit in other places to make it a little more colorful, I think. Love these talks, and you just get to see kind of like a little insight into people's worlds. You don't get to see anything here because my internet works in like one spot in my house. So, no personality whatsoever. That's not what this is about. Yeah, okay, so great. Ghouls is very excited to have you on. This is going to be on our site when it goes up. Just to start, I would like to know where and when this idea kind of came from, and who had the germ and who took it from there. And any one of you can start.
Yeah, so I was patient zero, germ wise. This idea actually originated, over a decade ago, back in like when I was in high school. I had an idea for this short story I was going to write about these two strangers who get connected over a drug gone bad. And when Powell and I were talking about wanting to do, some kind of impulsive iPhone road trip movie, this was the main idea that we both connected with, that I just still had sitting around.
And so you and Powell did this together. You guys are co-directors.
Yes.
And Powell, I think you had a credit for story or screenplay, right?
Patrick, no, that we've had.
No, that was Patrick. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So Patrick, you did. So I was told that this is improvisational, pretty much, right? Joey and Madison we're going to get into all that because that's just fascinating to me. That sounds like a nightmare, but that's just my nightmare. I understand it's not anyone else's.
Follow your instincts.
But so what did this screenplay look like? Was it a screenplay or was it just an outline? Did you have anything
It was
it
was a 23-page outline, technically in screenplay format. Like there were, maybe throughout the whole 23 pages, like 30 lines of dialogue suggestions, and we used maybe 4 of them.
Oh wow.
I was going to ask Maddie.
Exterior,
Maddie and
like
Joey
trees and shit.
Yeah, they weren't allowed to get the full outline either, the actors. I think, Lauren, Patrick, and I had it. No, they couldn't know it was coming. So.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you guys were holding the keys and the actors were just kind of along for the ride.
Well, we had
That's
2/3 of the keys. The 23-page outline did not include a third act. We just figured these two would guide us to what the characters would need. So we set out on the road trip without knowing how the movie would end.
my God. Okay.
Which for Lauren, I'm sure was well, she was very patient with us for not knowing where the movie had to go, all things considered. So.
Yeah. Yeah, Lauren, what did your job look like in this? I mean, were you just running around
wrangling us?
Yeah.
Are you okay, Lauren?
Yeah, no, it was kind of like being a roadie. It was like pack the band in, pack the band out, make sure the band has food, like make sure they're not ODing backstage, kind of, or losing their mind, and just like making sure we had lodging. And it was just kind of like step by step. It was like, okay, well, what might tomorrow look like? I'll produce that today, and putting it together on the fly.
Okay, wow. So was it like doesn't necessarily have to be shot in order, right? So
Oh, it did for
Oh,
this
this
one.
did. This definitely
Yeah.
oh, okay, all right. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you'd have to have a memory of a elephant to remember everything.
On the script, it was very much like, we had to kind of go in order, and we sort of went in order on the road trip, like locations we wanted to go, so because there was nothing to reference back to except for what we'd done.
Right. Okay. So like Joey and Madison, on your first or second day, were you just told, Madison, you're going to be on this bed and like writhing and screaming, and Joey, you're going to run in and be like, what? I mean, like, for you guys,
You're
as
sure
actors,
you weren't there? You're like really nailing the experience of having worked on this film.
Let's say we did have the big family history that we did together. So they had the background.
Okay, good.
We
That's
weren't
good to know.
thrown to the wolves. We weren't it never felt like we were unsupported or floundering, or we were like, we don't know what we're doing. We had in the 23-page outline, this is where Patrick's writing credit comes in, is everything. We had the beats, so we had our goalposts.
Mhm.
We just didn't know how we were going to get there with our dialogue. So that's where Joey and I came in. But we had structure, right? We weren't just like, let's make a movie and see what happens.
Right.
Little column A, little column B. And then on top of it, we had a very long pre-production meeting about like 3 or 4 days before we hit the road, where we sat down, all of us, for like 5 hours, 6 hours, and just did kind of a 10 to 15 year prehistory of what Madison and I's characters had gone through, important life events. When was the last time we talked to each other? What was that talk about? What's our relationship to our parents? What was high school like? So that as we were improvising and getting to do these goalposts, these beats, we would have a shared mental history of what our characters had gone through. So we're not just, pulling suggestions out of our ass, trying to come up with things on the spot. We knew our lives, so it made the improvisation and the acting a lot easier.
It was very, very grounded. The improvisation, like it's in that shared family history is in every single scene.
Yeah,
absolutely every single scene. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that there was never a moment in the movie that I felt like it was improv. I mean, in the way that it doesn't feel written, but at the same time, like it's really impressive. And that relationship that you guys had came out so well on the screen. I would think that you had a lot of time to rehearse together, and so, I mean, that, and especially dealing with, Madison, you went to some pretty like dark places, and for not having, I'm sure that you did a little work on your own, or a lot of work on your own with this character. But how much time did you guys have between the time that you kind of came up with the idea, Patrick, and then, did you guys all know each other beforehand, or was this, like just an intimate getting to know you kind of thing?
No.
All about you.
Oh yeah, this is one of the reasons why this movie works, is because we have known each other for years and have worked with each other in some way or another before. like I lived on the same floor as Patrick and Powell freshman year of college.
Oh, wow.
And that's where, so that's where our relationship started. And then Joey and I had been in various acting classes throughout college and then after college. So we worked together in acting class before.
Mhm.
And then Lauren produced their first feature, Bastard. Yeah, so this movie could not have worked if we had like not known each other at all.
Right, yeah.
As far as rehearsal time, I would say that while we didn't have maybe as much traditional rehearsal time up front as some movies might have, on the day, we probably had triple the amount of rehearsal time that you have because we were doing maybe overall less scenes, but each scene was very long. Like the pumpkin scene is 8.5 minutes. The car talk when we first meet them is like 6 minutes. And so we would rehearse hour, 2 hours and like come up with every in-between beat we needed to hit in between all Patrick's original plot points. But, you know, the dialogue itself none of it was ever written down. So took us a couple hours to get into it each scene.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Unless there was golden hour.
Yeah, it was
Unless there was golden hour, in which case we panicked, got it in 2 takes, and then drove to Las Vegas.
So was this a pretty overall, I mean, again, this is a story that is delving into addiction and it's delving into being, you know, in a family with someone who's suffering from this affliction. I think it's really interesting. You call it being cursed, right? And then at one point, when Leo and Virginia are talking, she says she feels like she's cursed, and he says like, "Oh, that feels like a really inventive. It's like a convenient thing to say." It really feels like a very intimate kind of portrayal of what addiction is. But then you've got this awesome, you know, cult subplot, and I think that's a great way to kind of meld the two. And I have to say that I haven't seen something where two people are connected in the way that Virginia is to this other person who's really not seen throughout the film until the very end. So I'm a writer too, and I just love to talk about story. And so like I would love to know kind of where, Patrick, your headspace was when you were writing this idea out, and you know, kind of how you made those connections with the characters and why you decided to go with the addiction route for this particular story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously our country's, you know, addiction is a very big issue right now. And I think we knew it was something where we weren't going to have a lot to grab onto with no scripts, no time, no money. We needed a lot of meat there and a lot to connect to. And so specifically when we're talking about Virginia's character, we're talking about, you know, she's addicted, but she's also feeling like she's losing control of, or doesn't have full control over her own body. There's another man, you know, controlling her, making decisions for her and not letting her progress. And once the team came together, these all felt like things that we could all sort of connect to and grab onto. And the curse came into it because originally we were going to make it a literal drug, and it was, you know, which would push it a little bit more sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I mean, Powell and I are huge horror fans, and one of the greatest assets horror has is being able to talk about all of these, you know, big ideas under, you know, some sort of metaphorical veil. And a curse and a cult that's been taking advantage of the most vulnerable people in its, you know, that it can grab onto felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really powerful kind of through line throughout the story, and I think a lot of people are going to connect to that. Joey, your character is very interesting because he's got this whole other life that he's having to deal with throughout that we don't, you know, we get glimpses of, and it's, you're not like coming into this as the savior in any sense of the word, even though, you know, you it seems like your character feels, you know, like he has to be here. It's this, you haven't been there for your sister before, and so now you're going to. But I think that's a really cool. So did you create that, for yourself, for your character, this whole thing of, I mean, Virginia, what, she's never met
My daughter, yeah.
your daughter, and I mean, was that something that you kind of brought to the character?
We, in that sort of landscaping shared world Bible process where we made our characters' histories, Maddie and I talked a lot about, in specific, what was going to be the most interesting story for estrangement. Like you don't just say vaguely, oh, we haven't talked in a while, and then improvise from there. No, what was our last talk about? Why did our why did our family disperse and fall apart? And we don't get a lot into the specifics of our father, but one of us was closer to our father than the other, and his death before the film kind of created a rift between us and how we handled things. And the specifics of Virginia and Leo's history just led to the idea that Leo still has trouble making his family work, his new family, or his extending family, the juiciest material, I think. Mm-hmm. You look at anyone with sort of a difficult early family history and seeing where they move to later in their life, the mistakes that they continue to make, the things that they grab onto as an anchor or as just to stay afloat, and sometimes they grab on too harshly, which I think is what happens with Leo and his wife. So to have all that come to a head, and to have Leo arc in what I think is a really interesting way, and finding himself, finding his sister again, it just made for the most interesting story to tell, and made it really fun to act with Maddie.
Yeah, it goes into a lot of that meeting and all through pre-production process and all throughout the actual shooting, we all made it very personal. I'm a brother to 3 little sisters. Powell used to be in a band. Lauren's a mother. Maddie's in a cult.
Yeah.
If you look at the timeline, actually, because that history wasn't just a couple bullet points. It was, we drew out actually the full 20 years of it. And if you watch it, they have sort of a shared parallel timeline that's going up to a certain fight that they have, and they reference that fight a couple times throughout the movie. And once we hit that fight, if you look at the timeline, it splits, and then there's no shared history from that point on. And so they only had their individual things, and some of it we didn't talk about there and added in later so they could kind of surprise each other, or some of it we added in on the fly that was new info. But it was really interesting to see kind of what Joey was talking about, Maddie was talking about, that the needing a point where they split up so the whole movie could be starting totally blank and new, so that the relationship could grow on something new.
And so the characters learn as the audience learns as well.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, well, that really comes through. And I mean, it's good to hear all of this, because when I got an email from from Patrick saying,
we're the same person, it's fine.
It's true.
But from Patrick saying oh, this is completely improvised and done in 12 days, your brain really starts to go. That was before I had watched the movie, so I was definitely I wonder what this is gonna be like. That's interesting.
Wonder if there's dialogue.
Yeah. Is this a silent movie? But it can go one of many ways, and I think that Threshold really went in the right way. And I think that it sounds like that is because you guys really put a lot of work into it, but then you let your actors explore. And I think that came through. And there are moments of real levity in the movie too, and some real nice, other than the kind of underlying dread that you're dealing with this whole time, there's some real nice moments of brother sister fun. And I have to say, one of my favorite scenes is when you guys are in the house that you rented, and this random man comes in, and I would like to hear a little bit about that scene. And because it's a really pivotal moment, because it's really the first time you see Virginia really do something that's unexplainable. Because up until this point, even though, and by the way, great with the thinking that she's having a heroin overdose and him checking her arm for, syringe holes. All these things are really, really great small things that you put into the movie. But I would love to know about just kind of that scene, who that guy is, because he was pretty bananas. And then, just kind of like like where that was kind of farther into the story. Where were you guys at energy wise? Madison, how was that for you? Because that was pretty extreme. I'll let you go.
I mean, it's what you'd expect. It was very tiring. We didn't have any energy. Past day one, we were shooting like 12 to 16 hours and driving, and we just like
at
zombies.
the same time, usually.
Yes, at the same time. But that was a really fun night for a couple reasons. One, we had like an Airbnb, so we had space. That was nice.
I got to sleep in a bed.
Yeah, Joey got to sleep in an actual bed instead of an air mattress. But John came in. We got so lucky. I think, Lauren, you said you sent out.
Yeah, so we were in the kind of middle of nowhere, and casting outside of LA can be really hit or miss. And I was just like, there's a casting agency kind of close to the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, send me anybody you have. And they only had like 3 people that maybe even closely fit the bill. And I'm like, Patrick Powell, like watch these 30-second tapes of these strangers and pick somebody. And
imagine a casting call for an improvised movie for 1 second.
Yeah. And then we got John, and we're like, I think he'll be good. And I had to talk to him, and I was like, yeah, so you're gonna come to an Airbnb, and we have a couple iPhones, and there's 4 of us, and we're gonna give you a knife and a clown mask, and you're totally safe though. We're really professional, I promise.
And you're gonna make everything up.
There's no script. Can I have lines? There's no script.
Wow.
But he came, and he was fell right in and was amazing, actually.
It was a fucking pro from the first minute. Just like
He was so game the whole time. Loved that it was improv, and just was such a trooper and brought so much. It was just, we got so lucky. There's just no other explanation. We got very, very lucky.
You couldn't ask for a better guy to brandish a knife at you, honestly.
No.
Like, he made it feel real. He made it feel real.
We should talk about the window, the big window.
Oh, jeez. There's that one shot. We had the window taped up because we're on this like residential Utah street, and the window just looked straight into the living room. We had all our lights set up. So if you were outside while we're filming at 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you looked inside, you would see a man in a clown mask brandishing a knife at me. And we were in a part of Utah that has some pretty open,
lax
gun laws, let's call it. And my biggest fear was just that someone was going to try and save my life, and in doing so, kill John.
Yeah,
outside.
I was just like, hey neighbors, it's okay. We're making a movie. I'm not.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry. Yeah, I was just on high alert. Like, it's fine. Everything's fine. But then we taped up the window and proceeded.
And that shot looks so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that whole scene is really intense, and he fit. I mean, I would have thought that he would have been along for the ride the whole time.
He was amazing.
But I mean, that's a really impacting scene, and that's really cool to hear that he's, he just kind of popped in and popped out.
It was very needed. I think we all needed something different.
Yeah.
It was
I think
day
that was
6 or
day
7,
7 or 8, something like that. And I think we needed some kind of hiccup to kind of snap us back to attention a little bit.
Right.
And then in terms of showing, I think the other part of your question, showing her ability.
Yeah.
I think at that point of the movie, we'd kind of gone back and forth about, how much do we show? How much do we want to just admit that she's right? And I think, it's not a long movie, but about 50 minutes in, I think metatextually, we just knew our audience, like, okay, these are horror people watching our audience. And I think we had Powell and I, they didn't know, but Powell and I in our heads always knew that she actually was cursed. Like, it wasn't a question for us. And so I think it was important to just kind of let her be right and to show that she's right at that point in the movie, and to also stop at that point playing with the audience in any sort of way so that we can move on and focus on other things.
And let Maddie live out her lifelong dream of being a witch.
Yes, that was the most important part.
Yeah.
I was ecstatic.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. I mean, that was a great turning point in the story, as was the moment that you, I mean, well, first of all, before we get like nearing the end of the movie, I have to say that karaoke scene was pretty awesome. And I'm sure, I mean, like, especially watching it like pandemic, you know, I'm an avid karaokeer and I haven't been able to do it. Who knows if they'll ever come back, but that looked like a lot of fun too. I mean, when you're going into these small towns with just your iPhones, I mean, I'm sure it's a little different if you were to have a whole setup, but was that scene like a cast party kind of night where you happened to?
Thought it was I was like, I'm going to a bar. This is great. We're going to do karaoke. And it was actually the one place where we were not welcome at all. Even though we had our iPhones, the locals were very into their karaoke, and we were like going up there a couple times and they weren't happy about it. And they were very confused. As, you know, we had iPhones, but they kind of had weird rigs and some things to them. And so they were like, what are you doing? And, you know, Maddie and Joey had their mic packs on. And if we're adjusting those, they were also very confused by that. And we kind of had to beg to let them go up and sing actually a second time.
Yeah, we had to do 2 takes, which is something that most people at karaoke don't get to do.
Yeah.
That's very true.
We said something like, it's for our mom and we need 2 takes for our mom.
Hey, our mom loves this song.
Yeah.
Please let us sing for our mom.
And then we'll leave.
And then we'll go away forever.
Please. Got it first.
But like right when we came into that bar, like Lauren said, you know, we had like weird little rigs and like, I think a duffel bag or something. And this guy came up, this big guy, and he was like, I'm ex-military. I know equipment when I see it. What are you guys doing? And we're like,
the equipment is literally this plus 2 wooden handles.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's all.
Yeah, well, you've obviously never been in the military.
Yeah, clearly.
I don't think I ever told any of you guys this, but that guy definitely like followed me into the bathroom at one point to make sure I wasn't up to anything. When I went to the bathroom at that bar at one point, he like followed me in, was just watching as I used the urinal and left. And that was the most you in the wrong part of town experience we had during our whole road trip.
Yep.
I think you're also on camera seeing Madison's first time ever doing karaoke.
Did not like.
Great.
The awkwardness, or the like not wanting to be there was probably genuine.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, and she won bingo for real. That happened.
Yeah, that actually is what happens on screen. Yeah, that was a real thing. Yeah.
I have the hat somewhere. I was just wearing it the other day. It was like a Utah vodka brand, and I got a hat.
Wow.
That was my prize.
What's not on screen is us doing, me and Patrick also doing karaoke to ease them into it. In 2 of the worst renditions of 2 songs, I think.
God damn.
Here's the problem. I love karaoke, but I get up there and the song is 3 to 4 octaves higher than it's supposed to be. I couldn't do shit about it. I did it. I did it, but it wasn't.
Queens of the Stone Age in a soprano meter.
Powell went up there to like, you know, make Maddie and Joey feel a little more comfortable doing this, and both just did atrocious performances, really annoying songs, which made everybody love us.
Yeah, more.
Yeah,
in the bar setting.
We bombed. Really hard.
That's good. You know, that gives you some tension to add to the film. Some internal tension.
It was totally on purpose to do badly.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
Improvised, but on purpose.
All a directing technique. Yeah.
There's no better directing technique than putting your actors in stressful situations. Everybody knows this.
The Stanley Kubrick method.
I was just gonna say exactly.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so kind of moving forward in the story, when you, Virginia and Leo Madison, you get to this house that is supposed to have this man that you're connected to. This is a really emotional. It's a great scene because even though the audience now is like in this character's camp, and we believe that what's happening is happening, you give up. She gives up.
Mhm,
She just kind of throws herself like under her own bus and says, no, it must all be, and that's a real turning point in the movie. It was for me because, this isn't like your traditional horror movie or kind of subgenre within the horror. This isn't a slasher. This isn't, we're really following these two people. You're really invested in their story. And when you give up, the viewer kind of gives up too, in this way that really makes the ending all the more powerful. So I just, that little subversion from, instead of just being like, all right, now we're going to go find this dude and it's going to happen, that real dark night for you, Madison, was a really great scene. And then getting the support from your brother, and then it leads us to this this really awesome ending. And I really want to hear about this because I love an ambiguous ending. Personally, I love something that's not wrapped up in a little bow. And the progression on that dark road, on that night, running into this man, really seeing the connection between these two characters, and then this, I guess, cult leader coming out. Just kind of walk me through just sort of how you came. I mean, I'm guessing you had the ending planned out.
You'd guess.
Well, I guess Patrick and Powell had the ending planned out.
You would think. No, so here's what we handed Lauren. We handed Lauren a page for the last 10 minutes of the movie that said "They arrive" on it.
Okay.
And that's from the house to the credits. So like, no, we had nothing. We thought we were gonna do we knew that they had to get somewhere.
And you guys had an idea.
Yeah, we had an idea. We thought we were gonna get somewhere, and we kind of thought it'd be fun because it was an iPhone movie initially to go big CGI ending, like sky vortex, red clouds, the whole 9 yards, because no one would expect that in an iPhone movie. And then we realized this is about them, and we should probably make it be about them. So Lauren found us a Buffalo Wild Wings down by where we were at, and
2 days before we shot the
she
finale.
gave us a talking to about needing a real ending.
Lauren, that's where you really shine, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest job was the ending of the film. I was like, hey guys, we don't have an ending. Maddie and Joey actually thought we had an ending and we just weren't telling them, but we really didn't have an ending. And Patrick and Powell were just like, we're gonna make it crazy. They're sleep deprived. They're just like, it's gonna be crazy. And I was like, okay, cool, but what is it? So the three of us sat down and we wrote out the ending, and we kind of knew we maybe had this puzzle piece and this is where they've been, and so what makes sense for these two, and that's what we came up with.
So you came, and so you don't go fully into the lore, of what's. I mean, it's not like it's, who these people are at the end and exactly what happened, but it's a really creepy scene, and it's really impacting just to watch. Madison, I think this is like your big moment of going a little nuts,
cuckoo bonkers.
Yeah, totally. It's I mean, so when you guys pull up in that car, I mean, I'm guessing you knew that there was going to be like a nude man coming out from the shadows and two clothed people, but I keep guessing things and I'm not always right.
No, Michael had been on set all day at that point. I didn't know what he was going to do, but he was there.
Oh, he was wandering around.
He was there and already walking around saying curses and kind of dropping his shorts occasionally. He was kind of rehearsing.
He was into it. Yeah, he was down for anything.
And was this another last minute hire, Lauren?
Yeah. Powell had worked with him before, and I think when we were writing the ending, we were like, we still wanted it to be crazy and leave a lasting impact, even though it fit the story better. And so we were like, what would look impactful on screen. And Powell was like, I got a guy. And so we called him and drove him up with us.
Covered him in blood, and we're like, let's do it. It's freezing outside. You only need to do 2 takes.
Yeah.
And then the other guy that I hit with my car is a buddy of mine who I had to call up because Patrick and Powell told me, and Lauren told me like the day before we shot, like, hey, we might need one other person. I'm like, oh, cool. What for? We can't tell you. Okay. So I called my friend up and said, hey, do you want to be in this movie? I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what we're going to do to you. There's no script. I don't know what your part is, but do you want to come to Idlewild and film? And he, to his credit, was like, hell yeah. And then him and Maddie went crazy in the car with me.
Seem very trustworthy to have these people kind of just, do this for you and for the project. I think that's a pretty good sign, moving forward.
We have weird friends.
Yeah.
No, it's just our friends are all crazy. Yeah.
I mean, this is like a very, just, in I don't know, like everybody here in this little group has worked professionally in the industry for a while and has worked on, Patrick writes Lifetime movies. Madison's been in Mank. I mean, like everybody here is like amazing. And so when they call on their friends to come do something that's crazy and that's sort of their passion project, the trust is sort of already there, I think that was like a big help for all of us and getting these people last minute to be like, hey, can you show up in the middle of the night? Okay. Or even casting, the man and that appears to them in the room. It was like, here's stuff we've worked on. Powell and Patrick have worked on before, you can come in kind of with that trust. So.
Yeah, well, I think it really comes through. This is the kind of movie, I mean, when I watched it, I wanted to sit down, especially when I heard that all of you were going to be here and really kind of go through the process because, it's one thing to have a big crew, big cast, everything's kind of by the books. This was what it was like to make a movie. But the great thing about indie film, and especially kind of indie genre film, is that, I mean, you really get to put yourself out there and do what you want, even if it's, a lot of work and maybe a little uncomfortable. And it seems like that was this for you guys. But it really comes through, and I'm glad to see that you got distribution and with great company. That's awesome. I think it's going to be, I mean, congratulations on that. I love Arrow. And it's one of those things that I think this movie is going to hit hard. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. I really like it. I think that everybody is very willing and ready for new and different types of filmmaking. And this really came through as that. Just to kind of wrap it up here, what is next for you guys? Are you going back out on the road? Point 2? Or what?
Not if we can avoid it.
Powell and Patrick, you guys seem like you're kind of a writing, directing team. Are you guys doing something new?
We are team writing and directing things.
We're always trying to push things forward. Whether or not it actually happens, hopefully you'll know in the next couple months.
Good. A lot of irons in the fire for sure. Yeah.
Right. Well, you're just having to work around COVID, right? So
Yep.
No biggie,
Yeah. Pandemic, whatever.
Worldwide pandemic.
Surprisingly enough, like this is a business model kind of works in COVID if it weren't for the arduous mental and physical stress that it puts on us. We all have to adjust and adapt, and I am glad that this is coming out. I'm excited to get this interview out there to all of our members, and I really look forward to what's next from all of you. You're all pretty great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks for hopping on the call.
Thanks for having us.
May 3rd. Arrow
May 3rd.
Thank you. May 3rd. We'll be sure to put that on the site too.
Cool.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, Jerry.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
God damn it. Go dab. Don't fucking dab.
Patrick,